Ask you to please stay muted unless you are called upon to speak. Is everybody ready? The City of Glendale Common Council is now in session. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to Clerk, would you please call?
Mayor Kennedy,
Here.
Alderwoman Vukovic, Alderman Doherty,
Here.
Alderman Gelhard,
Here.
Alderman Bailey,
Here.
Alderman Schmelzling,
Here.
Alderwoman Shaw.
First item is public comment. Glendale residents, business owners, and property owners are invited to speak to the mayor and council on items that are not on tonight's agenda, but are within the city's ability to regulate or control. Is there anyone wishing to speak to a non-agenda item? Yes. Would you just pull a chair up there and then if you would please state your name and address for the record, even though I think most of us know you.
Kathleen Carey, 5711 North Crestwood Boulevard. A couple months ago, I was here asking about the dead trees in the boulevard, and I just wanted to come back and publicly thank Carl Warwick and Charlie Emig for coming. They came like the next day, went through, figured out what trees needed to be taken down, and now in the last 2 weeks, they've been in the neighborhood taking them all down. So 10 came out of my little portion of the boulevard. So there were a lot there, and I just wanted to thank them for that.
Well, thank you for the comment. And I just want you to know that I've also now gotten complaints because we've now taken out things. I did explain to the individual who was complaining about the fact that we've taken them out, that dead debris is supposed to be removed on a regular
Yes.
basis, and that's just part of the
Yes.
upkeep, but
I do know I will see my annoying neighbor across the boulevard more now than I did before, but
thank you.
You notice how she didn't say his name or that person's name.
All right, any other comments for our public comment section? Anyone on the Zoom wishing to make comment, you may unmute and state your name and address, please. All right. And we will move on now with our consent agenda. We do have a number of items tonight that include the adoption of the minutes of the January 9th meeting, approval of the monthly reports, approval of appointments to Music in the Glen and 4th of July, a resolution for World Migratory Bird Day, a payment to UPI for work completed on the I-43 segment water main replacement, and a denial of a claim. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So move.
It's been moved by Alderman Doherty. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there any objections to anything on the consent agenda?
I would like to remove item number 3A because granted, we got the minutes this evening, but I don't believe all of us had an opportunity to review them since there wasn't a link
Okay.
on the uploaded piece of documents.
So would you like to, so you're asking to remove them from the consent agenda. So the motion then would be to approve B through G. Is there any objection? Okay, we'll consider the consent agenda approved with the exception of item A. Now I'm going to return to Alderwoman Shaw. Did you want to lay over the approval of the minutes to our next meeting then?
I'd like to postpone them to
Okay, so it's been moved that we approve the minutes at the next meeting. Is there a second?
Sure, second.
Second by Alderman Doherty. Discussion on this? Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Against anything. I read them. I mean, and I don't know if anybody else read them. But did everybody else not read them? I'm just saying, because some of us could have read them.
I think just so everybody has had a chance to read them, we'll just vote on them at the next meeting. So, yes. Alderman Schmelzing.
One point of order on the consent agenda. There was an amendment on the table here for the 4th of July, just making sure that was included in the consent agenda.
All right, any further discussion? Yes, Alderman Doherty.
Just one comment on the migratory bird item, just to say the Friends of Clutch Park will be doing something again this year. I did talk with them. I used to be on that board and they couldn't be here tonight, but wanted to just say that they'll be hosting something to keep our city having birds moving through it, so. Technically not.
Yeah,
Oh, because we
we already approved the consent
We already
agenda. Yeah,
approved
yeah. It's okay. I'm being relaxed. So the adoption of the minutes then is being laid over to the next meeting. All those in favor of approving the minutes for the January 9th meeting at our next meeting, having it on the agenda for the next meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, so items B through G were adopted on the consent agenda. There was no objection. Item A has been laid over to our next meeting. We'll move on now to our items of new business. First is 4A, review and approval, resolution authorizing the issuance of $8,685,000 in general obligation promissory notes and the issuance and sale of same amount note anticipation note thereof. So this is, I believe, for the North Shore Fire Department borrowing. Actually, this item and the next item go hand in hand. So I'll ask Carl, is there anything you want to add to that before I call for a motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything specific to add. It's about $8.65 million worth of borrowing for the new fire station construction, Station 82 here in Glendale. With the motion to approve these, then it will provide temporary financing for the station so they can execute the contract and then bring back permanent financing at a later date, provided it's below 5% interest rate, I believe. But Quarles and Brady should be on the Zoom or in attendance here to answer any specific questions you have about the borrowing.
Are there any questions about the borrowing? We've been through so many presentations about the fire department recently. I think we already are well familiar with this. We've also done borrowing, but I'll just ask, does anybody have any questions specifically about borrowing? No? Okay. Can I get a motion then to approve the first resolution? Moved by Alderman Vukovich, second by Alderman Schmelzling. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the first resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The second item then is second resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale not to exceed $8,769,000 in general obligation refunding bonds, series 2023A. Carl, did you want to add anything to that or?
No, I don't believe anything else needs to be added unless someone has questions.
Okay. Seeing no questions or comments from members of the council, I'll ask, can I get a motion to approve the second resolution then?
So moved.
Alderman Gelhardt, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bailey. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. The next item is item 4C, review and possible referral to the Plan Commission. This is the ordinance creating section 11 or 13.1.18 home occupations and deleting part of section 13.1.200 on home occupations within Title 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Glendale. This was before us at our last meeting. We actually decided to hold it over for another meeting in which we were to see tonight an amended ordinance language. And so I know that the city administrator did send something out to all of us. Is there anything you wanted to add to that? Or I know it took into consideration the public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the ordinance that you see in front of you, the draft ordinance that the city council could consider sending to the Plan Commission includes many of the public comments and the city council comments that were at the last city council meeting, primarily the requirement that certain home occupations be listed as acceptable. We removed that section and kept in the section regarding generally prohibited home occupations. And those would be the ones generally prohibited, but the ones that were accepted was removed just to provide some more flexibility to staff when discussing home occupations with residents.
Any questions before? Yes, Alderman.
There are a couple of things that fundamentally, I don't know if there's a necessity. I know people who there are CPAs who do taxes during the winter, during tax season. I know one woman that works until 10 o'clock. She has another person that comes in. This is only during tax season. Technically, she can't have somebody after 8 o'clock here if she doesn't live there. It's those little things that may not be enforced, but depending on what happens, you know, who decides to call. There was another part of this where I'm trying to find the other part. I'm sorry, I marked them and then. But I'm just concerned that some of these nuances, little itty bitty things will change how people run their businesses. And we have a lot of ordinances that guide some of these things that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. But I just want to make sure that the people who already have businesses, who are running them, it's not in the case of having trucks and stuff outside. That's a different problem, but that can be addressed through ordinances that we have, or if we need to do. It's just some of the things that people do in their homes. Like I think, I don't know if this is correct, so please forgive me if it is, but it can't, it was something about tools or bringing deliveries. But what happens if they're a cabinet maker and they deliver a bunch of wood? It would be the same as if somebody was remodeling their houses, but because it's the business, all of a sudden it's an excessive delivery. So I guess those are the main things. I'm just concerned a little bit about that. That's all.
Thank you, Alderman Doherty.
Yeah, I share Tamika's concern. I guess I'm more interested in always trying to let people do what they want to do in their own home, providing it doesn't cause a disruption or injury to someone else. And I feel like there's parts of this that are what Tamika's saying. I agree with that. There's things that just seem too restrictive still. So I guess I think we moved in the right direction from last time. I still think this has too many items in it that have potential to be hard on somebody who's actually pays property tax, lives here and is not bothering the neighbors. So I kind of go with the no harm, no foul.
I'm in agreement. Tonight's recommendation is to refer it to the Plan Commission, where I think these things can be also addressed at the Plan Commission level, and the Plan Commission would then send a recommendation back to us. So if it doesn't get repaired through the Plan Commission process, it would come back to us. We still get one more bite of the apple, I guess, before we would approve. So yeah, Alderwoman Shaw.
I don't want to sound redundant, but I do. Two aldermen, 1 and 2. And for me, I know some of this is very subjective because I'm looking at item C3 about the smoke, home occupation shall not generate noise, deliveries, etc. But some of that can be, you know, certain smells as well, meaning if they're working with woodworking, as Alderman Vukovic said, you got the wood burning smell. And for me, if there's someone that is doing medicinal marijuana, you're going to have that type of smell that smells like a skunk. So to me, that because of my health issues, I would have a lot of issues of how, you know, something offensive to me would, you know, let me call and complain.
Alderman Schmelzing and then Alderman.
So I think this is actually a good step because we do need to have some guidelines. I think if we just leave it too vague, it also becomes a problem. So my question is, we do have things like a variance process for when you want to do a property renovation. Is there something like that that we could potentially have built into this and, you know, refer to the Plan Commission and talk about how could someone, if they find they're not impacting, like the spirit of this is more than a regular residential property, that they could allow something to happen. So if there is a complaint that there's a review process. Only thing I would think of, so that we do have at least some general guidelines, but at the same time, if something is being done that is within the spirit, it can still be allowed or denied depending on the special circumstance.
I think this is definitely an improved version of this ordinance. We definitely need to have, if we're going to have an enforcement mechanism, we need to have something in writing that we can point to and say, you know, you can't do this per this ordinance. You know, our ordinances are complaint based. And I think most of the situations being discussed tonight, chances are good that no one is going to complain about someone if they're working at 10 o'clock in their home. So I think, I think that, I don't any of the generally prohibited home occupations that are listed there, 1 through 14. I think we need to do something so that we put people on notice that, this is a residential neighborhood and, we want to keep it residential.
All right, any other comments before I call for a motion? All right, we do have one member of the public that asked to speak. So before we have a motion, I will turn it over. Mr. Cromwell, you wanted to speak to this item? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry. All right, can I get a motion then to refer this to the Plan Commission?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Moved by Alderman Gelhardt.
Second.
Second by Alderman Schmelzling. Any further discussion? All those in favor of referring to the Plan Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, it'll be 5 ayes and 1 no. All right, motion carries. It will be referred to the Plan Commission. And thanks for everybody's comments. I mean, I do sit on the Plan Commission as well, so I'll make a point of making sure that those items are addressed when we review it at the Plan Commission level too. All right, next is item 4D, review and referral to the Plan Commission ordinance amending Title 15, Chapter 6, regulations of signs and billboards and other advertising medium. I will turn it over to Mr. Fellows for an explanation, and then this is the one that Mr. Cromwell wanted to speak with before we take a motion, so.
Oh, there we go. That's on. So real quick, we have, you saw last meeting, we had a few ordinance changes. Today, it's for some things that we've come across within the sign ordinance. Some of them are mostly cleanup things. We've kind of summarized them within your packet. Also, there was a red line ordinance version that was supposed to be attached to your packet. Apparently, when it got compressed, the red line portion didn't actually stay. So you received a red line version in a separate email, and then there's a paper copy available at your desk. So hopefully you've been able to look at that. That will kind of show you a little bit more of what was suggested to be changed versus just a clean version. So some of the items deal with clarification. So the policy when I arrived was that signs were reviewed by staff, but the ordinance actually said every sign went to the Planning Commission, and it hasn't been going to the Planning Commission for a very long time. And you'd have a really long agenda. And so there's those types of clarifications, as well as we've had one situation with a sign that wanted to be kind of more in the right of way. And so we've created a process for that, as well as electric message boards and cleaning up sort of the appeals process at the end, and special exceptions and things like that for those unique situations when the regular rules just don't quite fit a unique situation. So
a sign program or any variation from the current sign program goes to the Plan Commission still.
yes, so if you have a property that's more than 3 units, so let's just say the Pick and Save at on Port Washington Road up by Green Tree, they have a master sign program. They came to Planning Commission a few months ago. They wanted to modify it. It would still be the same type of thing. They would need to, as long as they met the criteria of that program, staff would still be approving those signs as those tenants come and go. But if they wanted to go with a whole new concept, then they would come back. So very similar. That part remains the same.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, Mr. Cromwell, you want to speak to this item? Yeah.
Robert Cronwell, 7530 North Applewood Lane. When I was going through, I did notice the red lines got kind of eliminated. But my biggest concern was the actual copy of the ordinance that you're passing the resolution regarding has numerous numbering and lettering errors through it, although most of those got cleaned up in the red line copy. But I'm a little concerned that if this particular version gets published, it's not going to match what you're putting in the books. And then there were a couple of further concerns. And please be patient. This is.
What's your first concern? This is, tonight would be a referral to the plan commission. The plan commission would then have the opportunity to,
Passing a resolution.
no, it's review and referral to the plan
Oh,
commission.
my mistake then. Okay, maybe it'll get fixed before then.
Yeah.
Well, then do you want me to save it for the plan commission or can I point out some of the problems and what you're passing on?
Does the plan commission have the plan commission doesn't have a public hearing on this, do they?
They have an option for a public hearing.
Okay. Do you want to give your concerns to staff and see if they can be rectified, working directly with staff and then? Okay, and then when it comes to the plan commission, it could already come with some recommended changes. Certainly, we want to make sure that numbering and formatting and stuff is proper. So before we turn it over to the outside company that it publishes all of our ordinances for us.
All right, thanks.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Cromwell. All right, any other discussion? All right, can I have a motion then to refer this ordinance to the plan commission?
So moved.
Alderman Gelhardt, is there a second? Second by Alderwoman Shaw. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of referring to the plan commission, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Then our last item of new business, item 4E, is about possible improvements to Richard Maslowski Park, and I will turn it over to Mr. Warwick, City Administrator.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. So this is another opportunity. Mayor Kennedy asked me to bring this back to the city council to review. We talked about this several months ago regarding the addition of a couple televisions out at Maslowski Park. As we started planning for the events and activities for summer 2023, some of the staff members brought up the opportunity to maybe keep some of the people who were at the park a little longer with some sporting events and some televisions. So we thought we'd bring it back for reconsideration. We do have a couple of donors who are here on the list to provide several $1,000s for the installation of the televisions. I did not include the annual costs of what the sports packages would be. I wasn't sure exactly how we wanted to proceed with that. Obviously, the Packers, Bucks and Brewers would be the highlight out there. So we'd have to do some research on what it would be to cost on an annual basis in order to have those television markets out there. That, and if we did the NFL Sunday Ticket, they haven't released the cost of that yet because it just switched to, I believe, YouTube TV. Just wanted to open up for discussion, see if we had any thoughts. I know this is maybe a little preemptive. We haven't talked a whole lot about the plans for 2023 season for Maslowski Park. You know, our goal here is to try to increase substantially the number of activities and events that occur out there to draw more crowds on a daily basis to Maslowski Park. So we want to try to do that. And that's some of our goals that we're working on. And it's mentioned for the executive session later too.
I did have a question. Out in the lobby, we have a television on the wall that's constantly flashing messages about things going on in city government. Could we utilize these TVs in that fashion as well? For example, if there wasn't any programming on, like during, say, a Music in the Glen, could there be announcements or things that could be flashing up on the TVs every 6 or 8 seconds for the people who are waiting in line, you know, to get their refreshments or their concessions or whatever before going to the concert?
Yeah, that's a great idea. And it might also not be a bad idea to put the actual menu up on the TVs as well too, to help facilitate that process. I know we've talked about ordering and pick up from the Maslowski Park Oasis as well. We're trying to streamline that as well, to have special pickup lines to move people through those lines quicker too.
So we have a recommendation tonight that we consider the installation of 2 televisions. There's partial funding. I guess it's free installation from one of the electrician providers, and then partial funding for the TVs from at least a couple of our local businesses. So to be a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, move by Alderman Schmelzing. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Alderman Gelhardt. So
Point of order.
any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
It just says review.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry about that. I meant just for discussion purposes right now.
Okay.
My bad.
So how much more would the TVs cost than the 2,000 that's being donated?
I believe I broke it down below that. The cost of the equipment, we estimate to be around 6,200, which would mean our out-of-pocket total will be about $4,200.
We also have time between now and when we do this to see if there are any additional local businesses that might want to sponsor. So All right, so there's Alderman Gelhart's comments. Anyone else want to weigh in with comments or input? Alderman Schmelzling, go ahead.
I think I'll just chime in and say, like, when I think about the unique differentiator of the park, we have this playground and we have a little bar lounge area. So having gone there myself a lot, I very much enjoyed just being able to hang out while my kids went playing. So if there's a way that we can get more people who are willing to just hang out there and sit playing and have concessions, that's probably good. I wasn't at the meeting where we were talking about this prior, and I think I was kind of shell shocked at the cost of having like the fire pit and some of the other things that were being considered. But I think this, when you divide it by number of beers sold, maybe it could actually add the benefit, and if we can utilize it for other things like promoting events. Yeah, could be a good meeting in the middle until
As we get to looking at a motion and can we have a financial statement or some kind of projection, what you think the park's doing, how it's doing in general?
Yeah, we can definitely prepare that. We have the projections pretty much finalized for the 2022 season. We've established our goals for the 2023 season, so we could definitely bring back our financial projections for 2022. I hope that it's not reflective on what we'll do in 2023. We hope to do much different and hopefully sell more alcohol and non-alcoholic stuff out there. But yes, we can bring those forward to
I
show.
just think it'd be good to put it all together if we're going to do something. Let's know what we're looking at.
I can just say typically the general fund funds about $75,000 of the revenue towards the Oasis. So it's about 50% funded by the general fund, 50% funded by the sales.
Thank you.
Carl, or does that?
I think that's great. I'll bring back some more financial information, including start to put together what the annual cost would be in terms of what it would look out there and advertising on there for city events and the menu and stuff like that.
All right, then we'll move on to commission, committee, board and staff reports. I just have one thing I would report, and that is the Milwaukee River Keepers report card for 2021 of the Milwaukee River. It takes them a good 8 to 10 months to put together and compile all the data. But for 2021 is completed. I received this recently in the mail. In here is mentioned the Clutch Park Fish Passage. And a positive note about our work as a city in helping to get that approved. And that does, it's one more thing on the checklist to get the Milwaukee estuary eventually removed as an area of concern from the Environmental Protection Agency. So anybody wants to review that report, I do have that here and I'll make sure to leave it with staff here at City Hall. And that concludes my report. I will now go to number 1. Number 2.
Nothing to report tonight.
Number 3.
Nothing this evening.
Number 4.
Nothing this evening.
Number 5.
4th of July, you may have noticed in these consent agenda that we're going to a smaller official committee, but we'll still be having some key volunteer coordinators. Also of note, I understand that we were able to get the Toys as our headliner band for the same price as last year through Jessica being very proactive. They reached out to us, and since there was not a big attendance due to our Super Soak last year, we figured we'd give them another go, and they were great. So I think they would do a wonderful job again. So just a heads up on that. We will of course be looking for volunteers day of the event, and if there's any general feedback about the event, I'm still the council representation, and of course, our staff as well is very active.
Last Thursday was North Shore Library board meeting, and I believe Carl, I hope, went.
I attended it, ran over the time that it was supposed to, so I had to excuse myself for another meeting, but there was discussions and interviews regarding trying to interview a company to do fundraising for the new library in Bayside. So they were simply interviews regarding those services.
And then Music in the Glen will be meeting this Wednesday at 5 p.m. at the Welcome to Glendale Center for a kickoff meeting.
All right, thank you. City Administrator? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
I was just curious, they had a fundraiser, those folks came here. we haven't heard about any fundraising. Does that mean they're switching horses in the mid-race or what?
I mean, I can answer that. The fundraiser that was hired was to help develop the capital campaign and get it kicked off. This is now fundraising. That contract ended. Those Baker Street consultants are gone. They put together the plan. There's co-chairs, and this is now the fundraiser that will work directly with the committee as they make their calls and get people lined up. Does that answer your question?
Well, as you can.
Okay. Yeah, phase two, thank you. City administrator.
I only have one small thing. The Wi-Fi system isn't working functionally right now. If you need to be added to it, we can't add you to it. Hopefully by the next time we have a city council meeting, we will have fixed that and have a new password, and it will be on the screen out front as an advertisement for us. So we're working on that right now.
Thank you. Ernie?
Thank you. I have no updates this evening.
All right, police chief
Nothing to report, thanks.
and Madam Clerk.
Oh, look at that. Just that in-person absentee voting starts February 7th, so that's before the council meets again. So that's it. And it's here.
Thank you. All right, so that concludes our reports. We are noticed for a closed session to meet with the city administrator. So can I have a motion to convene in closed session, please? Move Alderwoman Shaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bailey. All those in favor of convening in closed session, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're now in closed session. While the agenda does say to reconvene to open in session regular order of business, the regular order of business will consist entirely of a motion to adjourn. So. For the record, the motion was made by Shaw, seconded by Gelhard to reconvene in open session. The motion was unanimous. We are now in open session. There are no items of action out of our closed session discussion. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Schmelzing, seconded by Doherty. All in favor of adjourning, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And adjourned at 7 PM. So, yeah.